The stars shimmered against the vast void of space, a seemingly endless field of light marking waypoints for explorers venturing into the unknown. Captain Elena Draven stood on the bridge of the Stellar Phoenix, her sharp eyes fixed on the holographic displays flickering before her. The ship hummed softly, its engines a steady reminder of its power. Though everything seemed routine, a faint tension lingered, a silent promise of what was to come. During a prior mission, Elena had faced a reactor meltdown on a mining vessel. With alarms blaring and the crew panicked, she had rerouted the coolant manually, her steady voice guiding the team through the chaos. That unshakable resolve was why she now stood at the helm of the Stellar Phoenix, her reputation as a calm and quick-thinking leader well earned. Her crew, a diverse mix of humans and aliens, had faced countless challenges together. Yet, nothing in their experience could have prepared them for the mysterious message that had just come through. It originated from deep space, from a remote system barely noted on their charts. A distress signal, urgent and enigmatic. The message contained no words, only intricate mathematical patterns and a set of coordinates. But it wasn't the content that unnerved them, it was the sender. "Captain, I've confirmed the source," Malik, the communications officer, reported. His usually cheerful face was shadowed by unease. "The signal is coming from the Lyran Exclusion Zone." The bridge fell silent. The Lyran Exclusion Zone was infamous, a sector shrouded in danger and mystery. Legends spoke of ships vanishing without a trace, and whispers told of ancient human experiments gone awry, leaving behind remnants too terrible to uncover. Officially, the area was a navigation hazard, plagued by gravitational anomalies and stellar phenomena. Unofficially, it was whispered to be the graveyard of humanity's darkest secrets. "How reliable is the data?" Elena asked, her voice steady. "Too precise to be a glitch," Malik said. "Something or someone is definitely out there. Could it be a trap?" Ryn, the ship's tactical officer, asked. Their deep blue skin glimmered faintly under the bridge lights, a reflection of their readiness. "It's possible," Elena admitted. "But if there's a chance someone needs help, we have to investigate." "Captain," interjected Dr. Myra Voss, the chief scientist. Her tone was measured but tinged with excitement. "The signal's patterns, they're human, but ancient. Pre-unification era, if I'm not mistaken." A ripple of unease spread across the bridge. The pre-unification era, marked by humanity's wars and secrets, was a time few wanted to revisit. "Prepare the ship," Elena ordered. "We're heading to the coordinates. Ryn, have all defenses on standby. Malik, keep monitoring the signal. Myra, analyze every bit of data. If it's a trap, we'll be ready. If it's not, we might uncover something extraordinary." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. The Stellar Phoenix turned toward the coordinates, its engines flaring as it navigated the exclusion zone. Gravitational pitfalls challenged their journey, but the ship's systems handled them with precision. As they neared the source, an enormous structure emerged from the darkness. Its design was unmistakably human, with angular structures and utilitarian symmetry that spoke of function over form. Despite its scars from time and cosmic debris, the sheer scale of the fortress was staggering, a testament to the ambition and ingenuity of its creators. Time and cosmic debris had scarred its surface, but it radiated an aura of power and purpose. "That's not just a station," Malik murmured. "That's a fortress." Myra's scans intensified. "The architecture is pre-unification, but what's surprising is the hybrid nature of the technology. Some of these systems are clearly centuries old, yet they're seamlessly integrated with components that are far beyond our current understanding. It's as if someone upgraded ancient designs with knowledge we don't possess yet." "Life signs?" Elena asked. "Faint," Myra replied. "Possibly automated systems, or survivors." Elena nodded. "Ryn, take an away team. Myra, you're with them. Malik, keep an open line. If anything seems off, we're pulling back." The away team prepared quickly and docked at the structure's airlock. Its ancient mechanisms groaned as they forced it open, revealing a labyrinth of dark corridors and towering chambers. The air was stale but breathable, and the walls bore strange symbols that Myra examined closely. These inscriptions, they're part science, Part ritual, she observed. A fusion of belief and technology. The team moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the eerie stillness. Their lights sliced through the oppressive darkness, revealing walls coated in a thin layer of frost that glimmered faintly. Strange shadows loomed from twisted metal structures, and the faint hum of distant machinery added to the unnerving atmosphere. The station seemed frozen in time, as if holding its breath for the first intruders in centuries. At last, they reached a central chamber dominated by a massive console covered in glowing symbols. Slumped over it was a figure in an advanced yet primitive-looking suit, marked with the insignia of the long-defunct Global Defense Initiative. Ryn approached the figure cautiously. It's human, they confirmed, or was. Myra studied the console. This system, it's alive. It's waiting for input. Before they could react, the console flared to life. The figure stirred, lifting its head to reveal a human face, worn by time and hardship. Its eyes locked onto the team, and it spoke in a raspy voice. You shouldn't have come here, it said. You don't know what you've awakened. The away team froze. Elena's voice crackled over the comms. Report. What's happening? Myra glanced at the figure. Captain, we've made contact. But I think we've just become part of something much larger than we understand. The figure's gaze held a mix of sorrow and determination, as if burdened by the weight of centuries-old regrets and a duty that had long outlived its time. It was the look of someone who had seen too much, endured too many losses, and yet remained resolute in their purpose. This station was built to hide humanity's greatest secret, it said. And now, it's awake. As the words lingered, the station began to hum, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to seep into their bones. Lights blazed to life in cascading patterns, illuminating intricate networks of conduits and alien engravings that pulsed with an otherworldly glow. The air grew charged, crackling faintly as if the station itself were awakening from a centuries-long slumber, its vast mechanisms stirring with intent. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that whatever lay ahead, it would change the course of history forever. The air aboard the Stellar Phoenix grew heavy as the crew exchanged uneasy glances, their fingers hovering over consoles or gripping railings tightly. A low murmur of whispered theories and nervous speculations filled the bridge, amplifying the tension. The quiet hum of the ship's systems now seemed ominous, a fragile barrier against the unknown. On the bridge, Captain Elena Draven replayed the audio feed for the fourth time, the raspy voice of the human figure echoing in the otherwise silent room. You don't know what you've awakened, it had said. The tone was a mix of fear and certainty that unsettled even the most stoic members of the crew. Captain, Malik said, breaking the silence. I've cross-referenced the insignia on that suit. It's definitely from the Global Defense Initiative, circa 2147. But there's no record of GDI operations in this region. It's like this entire station was wiped from history. Elena's jaw tightened. Secrets and buried history were not unusual when it came to humanity's past, but this one felt different. Dangerous. Myra, what's the status of the away team? She asked. Ryn's voice came through the comms. We're securing the area around the central console. Systems are powering up faster than expected. Myra's reading something strange. They paused, their usual calm wavering. Captain, it's like this place is watching us, Ryn said, their voice lowering as they glanced around nervously. The lights, the symbols, even the air feels like it's reacting to us. Alive. Elena echoed. Myra's voice followed. Ryn's not exaggerating, Captain. The systems here aren't just advanced, they're adaptive. It's as though the station is responding to us, monitoring our movements, maybe even learning from us. Elena leaned forward, her fingers gripping the edge of her console. Stay alert. If the station is aware of us, we're already at a disadvantage. Find out what's powering it and see if we can shut it down if necessary. Understood, Ryn replied. As the bridge crew worked, the tension continued to mount. Elena's mind raced through possibilities. If the station was ancient yet adaptive, it could pose a threat unlike anything they'd encountered before. And then there was the figure. Who was he? Why had he been left here, seemingly alone, for so long? And what was the secret he warned them about? On board the station, the away team moved cautiously through the labyrinthine halls. The console chamber had been temporarily secured, but Myra insisted on exploring further. The strange symbols etched into the walls became more intricate as they advanced, shifting subtly in response to their presence. Lights activated ahead of them, casting long shadows that danced ominously along the corridors. Myra, Awakens said, keeping their weapon ready. These symbols, they're moving. Is that normal? Nothing about this place is normal, Myra replied, her voice a mixture of awe and unease. I've seen adaptive systems before, but these symbols, they're generating equations and diagrams that shift as we move. It's like the station is trying to talk to us, Myra said, pointing at the shifting equations and diagrams. Look at this, it's forming complex, evolving patterns. It's adapting to us, trying to bridge some kind of gap. Ryn frowned. Communicate? With who? Before Myra could answer, a low rumble reverberated through the station. The walls vibrated faintly, and a series of lights flickered to life in sequence, leading down a new corridor. It's leading us somewhere, Myra said, her eyes wide. Or luring us, Ryn countered. We need to be careful. The team followed the lights, their steps echoing in the vast emptiness. The corridor opened into a massive chamber that defied logic. The walls stretched impossibly high, and at its center was a colossal machine. It pulsed with an eerie blue light, its surface a seamless blend of metal and organic material. The hum of power was nearly deafening. What is that? One of the team members whispered. Myra approached cautiously, her scanner in hand. It's some kind of core, she said, her voice hushed. But it's like nothing I've ever seen. The energy readings are off the charts. This thing could power a fleet of ships for centuries. Ryn gestured to the surrounding area. Stay alert. If this is the heart of the station, it's also the most likely place for defenses. As if on cue, the room began to change. Panels in the walls slid open with a metallic hiss, revealing intricate, spinning mechanisms bathed in pulsing red light. The thrumming sound grew deeper, resonating like a heartbeat that reverberated through their chests. The hum intensified, and beams of searing blue light erupted across the chamber, weaving a glowing grid that sealed the team inside. Defenses, Ryn muttered, raising their weapon. I hate being right. Myra's scanner beeped wildly. The system is scanning us, she said. It's identifying us. As a threat? Ryn asked. I'm not sure, Myra replied. But it's not good. The beams of light converged, forming what appeared to be holographic figures. They were humanoid but distorted, their features shifting constantly as if trying to stabilize. The figures advanced in unnerving synchrony, their distorted faces warping between familiar and alien features. Each step they took was soundless but deliberate, their shifting forms casting eerie, fragmented shadows. Their slow, deliberate movements exuded both menace and curiosity. Captain, we have a situation, Ryn said, activating their comm. The station has defenses, and they're strange. Define strange, Elena's voice came back, sharp and focused. Holographic entities, humanoid but unstable. They're advancing on us. Elena's heart sank. Get out of there if you can, she ordered. We'll try to disable the station from here. Understood, Ryn said. But I don't think it's going to let us go easily. The holographic figures began to solidify, their movements becoming more fluid and deliberate. The team opened fire, but their weapons had little effect. The figures absorbed the energy, their forms growing more defined with each hit. It's absorbing the energy from our weapons, Myra shouted, her voice rising as arcs of light rippled across the figures, their forms solidifying with every pulse of absorbed power. Myra shouted, her eyes darting to the scanner as the figures grew more defined with each shot. Stop shooting now. The team ceased fire, retreating toward the corridor they had entered. The figures followed, their distorted faces eerily calm. As they reached the exit, the walls sealed shut, cutting off their escape. We're trapped, one of the team members said, panic creeping into their voice. Myra's mind raced through every theory she could muster. There has to be a way to communicate, she said, her voice steady but urgent. If it's adapting to us, it might understand intent. And if it doesn't? Arwain asked, their weapons still raised. Then we're out of options, Myra said grimly. She stepped forward, her hands raised. We're not here to harm you, she said, addressing the figures. We're explorers. We want to understand you. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the figures paused. The grid of light shifted, and a single beam focused on Myra. Her scanner beeped erratically as data flooded the device. It's responding, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The figures faded, and the grid dissipated, leaving the team standing in stunned silence. Arwain exhaled. What just happened? Myra stared at her scanner, her eyes wide with disbelief. I think it's trying to tell us something. But I don't know if we're ready to understand it. Back on the Stellar Phoenix, Elena leaned forward in her chair, her knuckles white against the armrests. Her mind raced, weighing the risks and choices ahead as fragments of the away team's frantic report painted a grim picture. What are we missing here? She murmured under her breath, her gaze fixed on the screen. Each word seemed to weigh heavier on her, the implications pressing down like a storm she couldn't yet see. Whatever this station was, it wasn't just a relic of humanity's past. It was something far more complex, and far more dangerous. The walls of the station trembled as the away team prepared for whatever came next. Each moment dragged like a weight, the gaps between the core's resonant hums filling the air with an almost suffocating pressure. Myra stood at the console, her fingers flying over her scanner as she tried to decode the flood of data. Arwain and the other team members stood ready, weapons trained on the towering holographic figures that loomed silently, their forms shimmering with latent energy. This thing, it's not just a station, Myra muttered, her gaze lingering on the glowing symbols that spiraled into fractal patterns and mechanisms that pulsed as if mimicking a heartbeat. It's some kind of living system, adapting and reacting to us. It's some kind of interface. It's alive in a way we don't fully understand. And it's waiting for something. Waiting for what? Owen asked, their eyes never leaving the shifting figures. Myra hesitated. I don't know. But if we don't figure it out, I don't think it's going to let us leave. The ground beneath them vibrated again, a low rumble that grew louder until it became a deafening roar. Without warning, one of the holographic figures surged forward, its shimmering form warping violently, as though it were tearing through the fabric of reality itself, before closing the gap with unnerving precision. The team scattered, the abrupt motion sending a jolt of adrenaline through them. Owen fired a warning shot, but as before, the energy was absorbed into the figure's form, causing it to grow even more defined. Its shifting features stabilized into something grotesquely human-like, a warped mimicry that sent chills down their spines. Fall back. Arwain barked, motioning for the team to retreat toward the corridor. The other figures began to advance as well, their movements synchronized and deliberate. The chamber's lighting dimmed to an eerie twilight, the pulsing core's glow stretching shadows into grotesque shapes, while the flickering figures loomed like phantoms on the edge of perception. Myra's scanner beeped wildly, and she glanced at it with wide eyes. Wait. They're not just attacking us. They're testing us. Evaluating our responses. Tell that to their fists, one of the team members muttered as they narrowly dodged a swing from one of the figures. Arwain's voice cut through the chaos. Myra, if you've got any bright ideas, now's the time. Myra stared at the scanner, her mind racing. The symbols on the walls convulsed and reformed, cascading into dizzying spirals that rippled outward like waves, mirroring the team's every step with an uncanny precision. It was as if the station, or whatever intelligence controlled it, was reacting to their presence in real time. The core, she shouted. We need to interact with it directly. It's the central processor. If we can establish some kind of dialogue, we might be able to shut this down. And how do you suggest we do that? Arwain asked, firing a burst of cover shots that did little more than buy them a few seconds. The symbols are forming a pattern, Myra said, her voice steady despite the chaos. It's like a language, but it's dynamic. Adaptive. I think I can write a response. Arwain glanced at the advancing figures and then back at Myra. You've got 2 minutes. Make it count. The team formed a defensive circle around Myra as she knelt near the core, her fingers flying across her portable console. The energy in the room seemed to intensify, the air crackling with static. The figures pressed closer, their movements more aggressive, but the team held their ground, their weapons firing in calculated bursts to slow the advance. Almost there, Myra muttered, her trembling fingers blurring across the console as a bead of sweat trickled down her temple, her breath coming in shallow, uneven bursts. She entered a sequence of symbols, each one causing the core to pulse brighter. The figures faltered slightly, their movements becoming less coordinated. "Whatever you're doing, it's working," Awakens called out. Myra didn't respond, her focus entirely on the task at hand. Finally, she hit a key, and the core flared with blinding light. The holographic figures froze in place, their forms flickering erratically before dissolving into streams of light that were reabsorbed by the core. The room fell silent, the oppressive hum of the station's systems fading to a low murmur. Myra slumped back, breathing heavily. I think we've paused it. But I don't know for how long." "Paused what, exactly?" Awakens asked, helping her to her feet. Myra gestured toward the core. "This station, it's not just a relic. It's a sentient AI. And from what I can tell, it's been waiting for something or someone to activate it." "Activate it for what?" Awakens pressed. Myra's face was pale as she stared at the core. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's far beyond anything we've encountered before." Back on the Stellar Phoenix, Elena leaned closer to the comms, her eyes narrowing as the away team's harrowing descriptions conjured images of chaos and unknown dangers in her mind. Her jaw tightened with every detail, the weight of command settling heavily on her. The idea of a sentient station, dormant for centuries and suddenly active, was a puzzle she wasn't sure they could solve. "Malik, run a full analysis of the data Myra sent over," Elena ordered. "Focus on anything that might tell us more about the station's purpose." "On it, Captain," Malik replied, his hands already moving across his console. Elena turned back to the comms. "Awakens, Myra, return to the ship. We're not taking any more chances. Whatever that thing is, we need to regroup and figure out our next move." The team made their way back through the station's corridors, the silence now more oppressive than ever. The symbols on the walls had stopped moving, their glow dimmed to a faint flicker. It was as if the station was holding its breath, waiting to see what they would do next. As the shuttle detached from the airlock and arced toward the Stellar Phoenix, Elena's gaze locked on the station, its shadowed expanse looming like a monolith of unanswered questions and ominous purpose. The station's presence loomed over them, an enigmatic shadow against the void of space. She couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of its mysteries. "What are you hiding?" she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. In the quiet of the bridge, the unanswered question hung heavy in the air. The Stellar Phoenix hovered in the shadow of the immense station, its sharp, angular hull dwarfed by the station's sprawling expanse of interconnected towers, arches, and glowing conduits that whispered of untold millennia. On the bridge, Captain Elena Draven stood motionless, her gaze fixed on the viewscreen. The station's faint glow pulsed in an eerie rhythm, its fleeting shadows twisting and stretching across the ship's hull as if probing for answers, deepening the unsettling atmosphere. Around her, the crew worked in tense silence, each of them acutely aware of the fragile balance they were navigating. "Captain," Malik's voice broke through the quiet, pulling her attention to his station. "Myra's data confirms the station's core is not merely a power source, it's a sophisticated, decision-making hub of immense complexity. And it's been compiling data about us since we arrived." Elena's eyes narrowed. "What kind of data?" Malik hesitated. "Everything. Physiological, tactical, psychological. It's creating a detailed profile, evaluating whether we're a threat or potentially an ally." Elena's jaw tightened. "We need to know what it's deciding." At that moment, the comm crackled, and Myra's voice came through. "Captain, we've re-entered the station's central chamber. The symbols have started moving again, and the core, it's projecting something." "Projecting what?" Elena asked. "It's a sequence," Myra replied, her voice tinged with both awe and urgency. "It's projecting something complex," Myra said, her voice taut. "I think it's seeking a deliberate response." Elena's thoughts raced. Was the station judging them as invaders? Would their actions spark something they couldn't control? Her grip tightened on the console as the enormity of the stakes settled on her shoulders. Can you interpret it? I'm trying, Myra said. But it's complex, adaptive. It's almost like it's testing us again. Elena glanced at Malik. Pull up everything we have on adaptive AI communication. Cross-reference it with pre-unification records. If this thing is testing us, we need to pass. As Malik dove into his task, Elena turned back to the viewscreen, the station's ominous glow reflected in her eyes. She keyed into the comms. Myra, focus on the sequence. Work with the station. If we can convince it that we mean no harm, it might stand down. On the station, Myra's fingers danced across her console as she deciphered the symbols. The rest of the away team stood guard, their eyes darting between the shifting patterns on the walls and the faint shimmer of the dormant holographic figures. This sequence, Myra muttered, it's recursive. Every time I respond, it adapts. It's like a conversation, but it's pushing for something specific. What does it want? Owen asked, their voice low. Myra hesitated before answering. It wants confirmation. It's trying to understand if we're compatible, if we can work with it. Ryn frowned. And if we're not? Then I think it'll decide we're a threat, Myra said grimly. Back on the Stellar Phoenix, Elena's sharp mind pieced together the fragments of information. The station wasn't just evaluating them, it was trying to determine its own purpose. Whatever had activated it, whether their presence or something else, it was now seeking a reason to exist. Malik, Elena said, we need a way to show it that we're not a threat, that we can coexist with it. Captain, we could try a direct broadcast, Malik suggested. Something universal. A signal of peace. Elena nodded. Do it. Myra, can you amplify from your end? I can, Myra said. But it's going to take everything we have. If this doesn't work, she didn't finish the thought. It will, Elena said firmly. We don't have another option. As the away team worked to align their systems with the station's core, Malik sent a universal signal from the Stellar Phoenix. It was a carefully crafted, repeating pattern, mathematical constants symbolizing harmony and balance, chosen to resonate with universal principles that any advanced intelligence might recognize. The station's glow intensified, its rhythmic pulse accelerating. On the station, Myra stared at her console as the core responded. The symbols on the walls slowed their erratic shifts, flowing into synchronized, elegant patterns that mirrored the broadcast's melody of harmony and balance. The dormant holographic figures dissolved, their energy reabsorbed by the walls. The oppressive hum softened into a steady, harmonious vibration. It's working, Myra said, her voice filled with relief. It's accepting the signal. On the bridge, Elena watched as the station's glow shifted to a soft, steady light. Malik's console beeped, and he looked up, his face pale. Captain, the station, it's sending a message. Put it through, Elena ordered. A calm, resonant voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect galactic common. We are the custodians. Our purpose was to safeguard. To protect. But we have been dormant. Awakened only by the presence of those who seek understanding. You have proven your intent. We will remain. Watching. Waiting. Should the need arise, we will act. As the message ended, the station's glow dimmed slightly, its presence no longer oppressive but serene. Elena exhaled slowly, the weight of the encounter finally lifting. Stand down, she ordered. Myra, Ryn, get back to the ship. We're leaving. Minutes later, the away team returned, and the Stellar Phoenix pulled away from the station. On the bridge, Elena stood in silence, her thoughts racing. They had survived, but the station's cryptic message lingered in her mind. Malik, she said, log everything. Every detail. The custodians may be dormant now, but I have a feeling this won't be the last we hear of them. The Stellar Phoenix drifted away, the station's faint glow shrinking into the infinite expanse of stars. Elena watched in silence, the weight of its cryptic message lingering as the galaxy's vastness swallowed the ancient structure. In its silence, the crew found an uneasy peace, knowing that while they had passed the test, the galaxy held secrets that were far from dormant.